Hello, everybody. If you would take a seat, we're ready to start. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for your patience while we get everything ready on the Zoom. I wanted to, on behalf of FIRES and ZAH Library, I want to welcome all of you. I want to welcome those of you that are here in person, those of you that have come all the way from New York and being out here, welcome. And welcome to the ZAH people, and welcome to the participants on Zoom. And as I said earlier, thank you for your patience with us as we had everything all lined up. We are excited to present to you our 24th annual lecture series out here in Houston. And the program, which will start shortly, will run like this, briefly. Sheer-e-Shireen Mary, our latest FIRES committee member, will introduce Jenny Rose, who has a remarkable talk for us. After Jenny's talk, in a very brief question and answer session, there will be a breakout session which will be introduced by Django Mistry and assisted by Nazneen Sarkari and Sheer-e-Shireen Mary. At the breakout session, and that will be followed by lunch, Zoom participants will not be with us. But we will break for lunch at 12:30 or maybe a little bit later since we've got a later start. And then we come back again at 1:30 to welcome our next speaker, our Houston author and library committee member, Mary Aravedna, who will be introduced by Nazneen Sarkari. Mary's talk will also have answer questions. Jenny's talk will have question and answers, and we will take Zoom participants' comments and questions. If you put your questions in the chat box, we will be addressing them. So once again, thank you all for attending. Enjoy the morning and the afternoon, and I'll call on Sheer-e-Shireen to please come up here and introduce Jenny. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It is quite a joy to welcome you on behalf of FIRES and the ZAH Library. I would like to thank everyone for joining us this Saturday morning in person and virtually for a day of learning and conversation. Today, I have the honor to introduce Dr. Jenny Rose. First, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm quite the fangirl when it comes to Dr. Rose's work in Zoroastrian studies, because her extensive research has been very impactful for an early career scholar like me in Parsi writing and print culture. One book in particular comes to mind when I need to go back and remind myself of the foundational elements of how dynamic and global our community is. In her recent book published in 2019, Between Boston and Bombay, Cultural and Commercial Encounters of Yankees and Parsis 1771 to 1865, Dr. Rose examines the commercial ties between American and Parsi traders, resulting in an American interest in Zoroastrianism, and the broader cultural connections and understandings between the two cultures, communities, and identities. In addition, Dr. Rose has published 2 books on the religion in 2011, Zoroastrianism: An Introduction and Zoroastrianism: A Guide for the Perplexed. These books ask the reader to think about the fundamental questions of our community. What does the word Zoroastrian mean? Who is a Zoroastrian? And what is Zoroastrianism? In these texts, her remarkable writing and research articulates the nuances of this community we belong to and makes the reader think deeply regarding the historical, social, and cultural diversity of Zoroastrianism. Dr. Rose holds a master's degree from SOAS, where she worked with Mary Boyce, and she has a doctorate in ancient Iranian studies from Columbia University. In Southern California, Dr. Rose has taught classes in Zoroastrian studies at Claremont Graduate University and at Pomona College, as well as running workshops for history and geography grade school teachers. She lectures extensively at academic institutions, museums, and Zoroastrian Association events throughout North America and Europe, and occasionally in India. In addition to her scholarly work as a teacher and a researcher, Professor Rose has been involved for many years in supporting Zoroastrian cultural institutions. As mentioned yesterday, she leads study tours of some of the most important archaeological, cultural, and devotional sites in Iran, Central Asia, and along the Chinese Silk Roads. And next year, she will lead a tour of some of the European museums which hold collections of ancient Iranian artifacts and manuscripts. I'm very pleased to welcome Dr. Rose to the ZAH today to speak to us for her talk entitled Sheer-e-Shireen, Zoroastrians Adding Sugar to the Milk. So please join me in welcoming her.
Thank you, Charlene. That was a wonderful introduction. I don't know quite how to follow it. I'd like to thank Argonne and the ZAH Library Committee for inviting me to be here today. I'm very excited to be back in Houston. This is my fourth visit, as Argonne noted yesterday. Sometimes, can you hear me? Yes? Shall I tilt this up a little? Is that better? Yes. Okay, sometimes when people find out that I teach Zoroastrian studies, who are not Zoroastrian, they ask me to tell them about the religion. And I'm always tempted to summarize the religion using the motto that is ingrained into every Zoroastrian. It's good thoughts, good words, good deeds. And sometimes I refer to the film Bohemian Rhapsody. Just before he goes on to the Live Aid concert, Freddie Mercury meets with his father. It's a kind of rapprochement moment. And before he leaves, he turns to his dad and he says, good thoughts, good words, good deeds, just like you taught me, father. And of course, that motif is the motivating principle for Zoroastrian conduct from cradle to grave. And it involves the whole being, the mind, the thought, the verbalization, and the putting into action. The Avestan phrase is Humato Hukta Huashta, and that comes from the Yasna Tanghaiti, that 7 sections at the center of the Garter. The Persian form is Pendari-nik or Andishei-nik, Goftari-nik, Kerdari-nik, and you can see that written over the fire temple in Yaz on the top right. So when we last did a tour in Texas, I came with Professors Almut Hintzer and Matthew Stolper. We stopped off in Houston and then went on to Dallas. And in Dallas, we held a little session for the youngsters who are now, of course, grown up and probably have babies of their own. But I asked them, I've always been really interested to know what children make of this phrase, this motto, mantra, good thoughts, good words, good deeds. So we sat them all down on the ground and asked what the good thoughts was a little bit hard for some of them. Good words, they knew that meant that they were supposed to speak the truth, they weren't supposed to badmouth other people, they were supposed to be polite, but they really came to life when we talked about good deeds, because that's something visible and tangible and that they could grasp onto. And there is a prayer, an old Avestan prayer, that is recited on a daily basis, that is said to encapsulate the whole religion, that has a slightly different take on this notion of good deed. Of course, the prayer is the Ahuna Varya prayer, the Ahunvar prayer, which ends with words that encourage good action. And the last few words of the prayer, you'll recognize Yindrigubio Dada Vastarem. The interpretation of one of our prayers is complex, but the last phrase suggests that the way that Ahura Mazda as Ratu, or guide par excellence, puts into effect the power of good thought is through action. And that action is as a pastor to the needy or a shepherd to the poor. The word pastor is a translation of vastara, and you can see how closely linked they are linguistically, and the word for the poor is strigu. That putting into effect of the power of good thought through action that benefits those who are in need, those who are impoverished in whatever way, can then be seen as a bedrock model for everyone who recites the prayer. Although when I was talking to Arban about this, she said, well, pastor to the needy sounds as if it's got Christian overtones. And one has to remember that the context for the development of the Zoroastrian religion was also pastoral, the herding of sheep and cattle and horses. But of course, it predates Christianity by hundreds of years. Those good deeds to benefit those in need, those who are impoverished in whatever way, whether it's an individual or a wider group, may involve providing access to basic necessities, to water, to food, to education, to healthcare, or to justice. And action to address such needs sometimes requires what I call macro activity, a kind of larger philanthropic activity. That large-scale use of private assets for public good. I'm thinking here, of course, you're all thinking here of those great Parsis in the middle of the 19th century, such as Jamsetji Jijiboy, who founded a hospital and a high school in Bombay, or the hospitals and university buildings that were founded by Kawasji Jahangir Reddy, who also set up several drinking fountains. In one in St. Thomas's Cathedral in Mumbai, and this one in Regent's Park in London. So that large-scale philanthropy, the provision of clean water, extended it extended out from the Zoroastrian community to the wider community. And there, of course, there are parallels in Iran, particularly in terms of the supply of water. Arbab Jamshid Jahanian constructed several bars, these underground water reservoirs that you find in Iran, to serve both Zoroastrians and Muslims. And another Arbab, Rustam Ghiv, also constructed bars. He built housing for Zoroastrians in Tehran and gave the seed money for the original ZAH mayor in New York, which of course has just been completely rebuilt. But he also gave seed money for other dairy mills across North America. And the establishment of such facilities, particularly those that serve a wider public, continues to have a measurable impact on the communities in which they're found, in India, in Iran, in North America, and the UK in particular. So earlier in the year, I gave a talk in Boston. It was about my book, Between Boston and Bombay. And there was a young Sikh entrepreneur who was there, and he spoke very positively of his own schooling at the JJ Madrasa in Mumbai. But of course, not everyone has the financial assets necessary to be able to sustain such institutions. So I thought today I'm going to focus on the small actions rather than the large options that can ameliorate the lives of others, a kind of micro-philanthropy, as it were. And I thought I'd share some examples of what I call the sugar in the milk ethos that I've encountered while I was undertaking research or meeting with Zoroastrian community members in Iran, in India, in North America, and the UK. I've always understood the story of the dust door putting either sugar or a gold ring, you can see both represented in this image, into the Raja's bowl of milk, to signify that the presence of Zoroastrians would sweeten or enrich any community in which they found themselves. And I thought I'd offer just some examples from my own experience of that sweetening and enrichment. This is a talk that you could all give. Any one of you could be standing up here and talking about your own experiences. Aban invited me to speak, presumably because I will have different insights that might spark something, but so I'm hoping that I can offer something that differs from your own perspective, perhaps. I'd like to start with an anecdote from my research into my book. This is a story about a young Scots merchant who emigrates from Scotland to New York at the turn of the 18th into the 19th century. He becomes a shipping merchant for a company out of New York and finds himself in Mumbai in 1809 and then again in the fall of 1810. His name is John Johnston, and his broker was this man, Nusawanji Manek Jiwadi. And it was on his visit to Mumbai in the fall of 1810 that Johnston was passing Nusawanji's office on the Parsi New Year's Day. He describes it, obviously, as Sheer-e-Shireen New Year. And he sees Nusawanji's clerks handing out clothing to the poor. And when he asks what they're doing, they inform him that all the other Parsi merchants do the same according to their circumstances. So this is the first account we have of an American recording Parsi and witnessing and recording Parsi philanthropy firsthand. And he was also, as far as I can tell, the first American to experience Parsi hospitality. He describes getting into Nusawanji's carriage and being driven from the fort area to Nusawanji's house outside the fort, probably in the parallel area, to his broker's house, where he enjoys drinking tea in the garden by the side of a delightful pond underneath an orange tree that's dripping oranges into the cup. And the two, we know from Johnston's daughter that the two men continued to write to each other regularly over the years. She said they became warm friends and corresponded. And of course, this speaks to a personal connection. There's more than just good business relations, more than just hospitality, but it involves a great degree of cultural interaction and a recognition of kind of a social equality there. So the person of Nusawanji Manekji exemplifies the Zoroastrian notion that the accumulation of wealth is not in itself thought of as undesirable. It's important to have an income to support oneself and one's family, and then also to share one's resources with others. A historic example of individual wealth that's used to support the wider Zoroastrian community is the system of endowment, or ZAH, that's often and still used to create, is generated in memory of a deceased family member to fund religious festivals such as Jashans or Mahambars, or to support religious institutions. And if you look at the plaques outside this, on the entryway to this building, you can see such kind of donations. But in Iran, there's a particular system of endowment that has been crucial to the Zoroastrians there since Sasanian times. And those endowments continue to enable local communities to meet for a meal together after prayers of thanksgiving and remembrance for the person on whose behalf the ceremony was endowed. And Gahambars, such as this one I attended in Taft near Yazd a few years ago, are public occasions when all the members of the local Zoroastrian community, regardless of status or income, sit together. And they involve everyone contributing what are called charitable activities or khairat, according to their means or capacity. So some of the members may have endowed the event, but others make sure that the right foods are prepared and that there's sufficient for all to share. The day after I attended this first day of the Gahambar celebration in Taft, I went to Mazar-e Kalantar to attend the second day. And after the prayers in both places, I saw how each community shares the solid food offerings, the chashni or miyaz, that was consecrated during the ceremony. First, the lork, the dried fruit and nuts that were traditionally gathered from the produce of the local community. So they grow their own trees and grapevines and produce the dates and the raisins and the apricots, walnuts, hazelnuts, whatever. And then they shared the sirog, the fried flat wheat bread, cooked by members of the community, and someone would cut up the fruit and to distribute afterwards, and everyone present had something to eat. In Madurai Kalanta, they also made up plates to take to the homes of anybody who was sick or disabled and unable to attend. And there were two, these are the ladies sitting during the prayers, and this is where the food was served afterwards. And there were two Muslim men who'd been sitting outside the building for the duration of the ceremony. And after the ceremony, they were invited to participate in the food. And it's through such a system that everyone has access not only to social and community activity that helps to consolidate a sense of connectedness. There's that concept of hambandigi, literally binding together, what I often translate it as community unity. But those times also provide access to food on a regular basis for those who may not eat well the rest of the time. So in Iran, there are 30 Gahambar days. You have the 10 Faradin days before Nowruz. You have the Mahiyani, the name or birthdays like Tirgan, Mehragan, Abanagan, that's Abanya Zah and Pravardagan. And I have read that in India, at the time of the Gahambars, Parsis also used to go from one town to another during the 5 days of the festivals, not just to celebrate with their co-religionists, but also to eat. So food is a big, a powerful means of bringing people together. But it also, it's a physical and a kind of an emotional sustenance as well. This photo is of my dear friend Manijay, who passed a few years ago. And when I took a group of my students from Claremont to the California Zoroastrian Center in Orange County a few years ago, she insisted on making syrup for them to sample. And she told us that this was her manner of engendering a sense of hambandigi, a bound togetherness. And I've been thinking about that recently, that the value of such a practical expression, a tangible sensory expression of hambandigi, is perhaps even more crucial in a post-COVID era. It's a means of mending broken connections and of rebuilding relations. In the rural communities in Iran, there's a popular activity that still happens, which involves the preparation of what's called Sheer-e-Shireen, a charity soup or a benevolence soup. It used to be cooked by Zarathushtis over fires outside their homes, and it still happens, although it's mostly now prepared in the home or in the Darimere kitchen. The thick soup is prepared and shared to celebrate any occasion of good fortune and blessing. That could involve the successful outcome of a medical procedure, the birth of a child, an exam pass, or the safe return of a member of the family. These are moments that individuals want to share and celebrate, not just with members of the local Zoroastrian community, but with the broader community at large, their friends and neighbours. So the cooking and the sharing of a soup may be said to be not so much a religious practice as a social custom, but it's a practical act of service, which works to bring friends and neighbours together, despite differences in status or religion. Tehrani Zarathushtis, who have some good news to celebrate, will often prepare an Sheer-e-Shireen to share when they visit this shrine, the Shah Bahram ZAH shrine. It's in memory of Bahram, Beretram. And interesting to note that the original house for this shrine was donated to the Tehran community by one of Manijay's ancestors. At this shrine, as also at the shrine of Banu Kars in Yazd province, I saw bowls of chickpeas, and these had probably been shelled and prepared as part of a ceremony called the Nokhode Moshkel Gashar ritual. And it's a woman's ceremony that has a Parsi parallel known as Mushkil Arsalan. It refers to, the ceremony is all about overcoming something that is difficult, Moshkel or Mushkil. And it involves women getting together, they will clean chickpeas and prepare them and recite a story about a poor woodcutter and his daughter, who, through consecrating chickpeas every Friday, and it's a long and convoluted story, but they managed to overcome their adversity. So in their retelling, as I've talked to women about this, they say it's as if Bahram Yazad is present to help resolve the problems of those participating. But of course, they're also sharing their burden with another group of women engaged in what's a kind of basic culinary activity, but with a kind of sacral overtones. The preparation ends with the recitation of an Avestan prayer, often the Hashem Vahu, and the chickpeas are roasted and distributed amongst the women and their neighbours, and sometimes they're placed on shrines for others to share. It's a sweetening. It's a recognition of blessing, and then a moving out beyond that to sweeten the experience of others. And there is a literal sweetening here. If you can see in this bowl here, there's sugared almonds and salt and sultanas. And I have a Parsi friend in Seattle who recites the story of the woodcutter every Friday and recites the Behram Yazab prayer, and she has a little bowl of roasted chickpeas there, but also dates and sugar. And it's occurred to me that good deeds also means being kind to oneself, because that particularly, I'm thinking of this friend, if one's in a state of kindness towards oneself, it's easier for that kindness to outflow. Outflowing kindness has always been my experience of meeting with Zoroastrians wherever I've been, and being here is no exception. But I promised to show you a photo of my first time in India. This, you can laugh if you like. So the first time I went to India to study my ancestral religion, I was met at the airport by Mrs. Aga and her family, who fed me a lovely dinner in their home and safety pinned me into this sari and carted me off to my first experience of a now job. This was in Khusrobal. So after I left Mrs. Aga's family, I was hosted by Dr. Homi Adolji and his wife Minnie. And Minnie very patiently taught me how to cook Parsi food. Not much, but I learned how to cook a curry and Parsi omelette, and my favourites, which are save and rava. I still love those. But as she did so, we chatted about the religion. We talked about her life in Uttarakhand. And Homi, who's a chemical engineer by profession, arranged for me to meet as many priests and visit as many institutions connected with the religion as possible. So this openness and generosity of time, energy, and material resources is a model that I have tried to follow in my own dealings with others, including those who turn up on my doorstep unexpectedly. It's a model of hospitality and welcome and learning that I found each time that I visited Zoroastrians in Iran over the past couple of decades. So we encountered these three ladies on a street in Taft, and I was with my colleague Jamshid, who greeted them with the Dari greeting Ruzgoriak, which means good day, and they recognized him as a Zartushti and immediately invited us to participate in the Humbar celebrations that I showed you photos of in Taft. And in Mazrai Kalantar, when we met the Kadkoda, the village head or the mayor of the village, who was a Zartushti coming out of the garden where she'd been tending the roses, she invited us to tea, welcoming us into her home. And this was her home. And such expressions of hospitality is, I think, a measure of concern about another's well-being, expressed to friend and stranger as well. On my last visit to India in 2018, I took a short trip to Gujarat with Ruxana Nanji, Dr. Ruxana Nanji, who also participates in the Return to Roots travels. And we stayed at the senior centre in Navsari. Although we were out and about most days, we were able to eat with the residents and we spent time meeting with some of them. And one of them was Marsban Gyara, who spoke with enthusiasm about his ongoing research and writing on the history of the religion. And he was so thankful that he was able to continue to do that at the centre and to share with the other religions. And this is one of the books that Marsban has written. So he felt like a valued and important member of that senior citizen centre, and that he was continuing to contribute. And I'm so impressed with that perspective. We also visited the Parsi Infirmary in Navsari, which is another senior centre, and that offers support to those who face both physical challenges as well as mental challenges. And I came across, these are three of the residents there. So I was wandering through and I found this man sitting in a chair reading a newspaper, and I wondered why he was sitting there facing inwards instead of facing outwards. But as you can see, as I walked around, I'm trying to find it. As I walked around the building, there he is there. So he was sitting on his chair reading the newspaper aloud to a group of the other residents who were sitting there, some of whom had visual problems. So to me, this was just a wonderful example of a good deed. It took time and energy, but no money. But it was just a real act of kindness that ameliorated the experience of those around. So in Iran, similar senior centres have been founded for the elderly, as well as centres to support young Zoroastrians. Over 20 years ago, the Bekharagnia family was instrumental in establishing the Prochista Skills Foundation, the Bunyad-e Khair-e Prochista, in Yazd. And the building is at the back of the Arbangar that was built by Rustam Giv, who's a member of the Yazdi community, for the use of Zoroastrians and anybody else in the community. So in the Rochester Foundation building, several rooms have been dedicated to function as a vocational school, a honoristan. And it is a safe space for women to learn skills so that they can earn a living. And when we visited the foundation, Naban, you were with us, weren't you? In one of the downstairs rooms, the young women were being taught the basics of sewing by an Iraqi woman who had moved to Yazd a decade earlier. And in another, there were classes in cosmetology and hairdressing. Upstairs, there was a computer room dedicated to the memory of Mr. and Mrs. Bekhragnia. And also upstairs is the Kushti weaving room, where the older women gather and weave, and there are at least 3 of these complicated looms in action. You'll see that in the Iranian technique is to kneel on the floor and use a loom that's a low loom. The Prochester Foundation also has used funds from the
or alongside funds from the Mehraman Zoroastrian Trust, also helped to open a drop-in senior citizen centre in Yaz. And the COVID, of course, pandemic interrupted many of these activities, but as far as I understand, both centres remain functional. There are no funds coming in from outside the country, though, to either of those foundations. There was quite a lot of money raised outside Iran to help Zoroastrians in the country during the pandemic, and it was channeled through private individuals to those who are in need of medical expenses or food, as well as for funerary expenses. In India, when I was there in 2018, we also went to the Alvabag in Nasari, which is a charitable foundation, and also supports the elderly. And we were introduced to this lady who's weaving the kusti in Indian style she's able to sit weaving the loom. And of course, in both places we bought kustis to support these women. The Arbambars installed by Zoroastrian benefactors in Yaz province, as elsewhere in Iran, are for Zoroastrians and non-Zoroastrians. Access to clean water is a basic need. And keeping water clean is, as we know from the earliest times, part of the Zoroastrian ethos to be a world healer, and ahundish. The provision of clean water for diverse communities is an activity that is supported by Fazana. This is taken from the Fazana website for the Ava project, and I couldn't find any more information on the project on the website, but we have two young ladies who are heavily involved in it from your own community who are going to talk a little bit about it after I finish. The notion of greening the land is also an Western concept. When the French merchant Jean Chardin visited Iran in the later part of the 17th century, he made particular mention of the Zoroastrians in Yazd and Isfahan, who encouraged the farming of the land because, as he said, it was a godly and meritorious action to plant a tree, to reclaim fields for cultivation, and to turn barren ground into growing fruit. And that's cultivating the earth for its fruits. Of course, I had seen when I had been in Iran and seen the Kad Khodar collecting the rose petals from the rose garden and all the fruit and nuts that had been provided for the Lord in the Bahama celebration. As I told some of you yesterday, I'm currently co-editing a book for Routledge on things Zoroastrian, which includes many individual Zoroastrian voices. And one of those is Roshni Pardiwala, who for the past few years has single-handedly undertaken to restore the forests in the land around the Dungawadi, the location of the Dokhmes in Mumbai, which is one of the most polluted cities in the world. With the support of the Bombay Parsi Panchayat and individual Parsis, her work over the past 8 years has gradually revived the forest through the addition of nearly 8,000 large tree saplings from over 50 native forest species. So green activism is present in the UK as well, as Arban will testify. Recently, Shaheen Behradnia has found effective ways to put an environmental agenda into action in her own locale. This summer, she was instrumental in installing a flower planter at Feltham Station, commemorating one of its most famous residents. We come back to Freddie Mercury. So an individual, in case you don't know who Shaheen is, she is, this is Shaheen. This is what
It's a person too.
it's a fazana, yes. Oh yes, lots of fazana folks there. So an individual can be effective Community action, which can be even more broadly inclusive, can amplify that impact. And there is a term that encapsulates that sense of community involvement and community strength. It's hamazori, which literally means strength together, not just physical strength, but kind of the emotional, moral, supportive strength, inner strength. So a couple of months ago, also at Feltham, a cherry blossom tree, a sakura, was planted in the garden around the memorial to Freddie Mercury. It was largely funded by Japanese fans of the singer, but it's the activity served to bring the wider community together. So you can see in this photo, you have the Japanese campaign organisers standing next to Kashmira Bulsara there, as Freddie's sister, along with the local mayor, the mayor of Hounslow, the local MP, and the chair of the Friends of Feltham Green and other members of the community. So I've given just a few examples from my own experience of Zoroastrians enacting good deeds, sharing food within a small community, providing mental and physical support for those in need, education, reading aloud to those whose vision is no longer great, providing job training and opportunity for youngsters, providing a sense of dignity, purpose, and practical support for elders, greening a local space, thinking about clean water, both locally and globally. You'll all have many other examples from your daily lives and experiences. And of course, every human should engage in such activities. It's what makes us human. But of course, within the Zoroastrian tradition, the performance of good deeds, the putting into effect the power of good thought through action that benefits those in need, is a moral imperative from the earliest articulation of the religion. Thank you. So before, I will answer some questions if you have some, but before I do, I'd like to invite our two representatives of the AVA project, Marta and Natasha, to come up to the stage to actually talk a little bit about what it is they do.
Hello, good morning. So the Fizana ABA project is an initiative started by the Fizana UN NGO Committee in support of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And the initiative is a global connectivity initiative where we want to revive the ancient Iranian Zoroastrian culture regarding water and the practices while educating our current modern Zoroastrian community about those practices and teaching them on how we can expand it and take it forward in our own unique ways. Through this, we use many different subcommittees and different teams working on multiple different projects and aspects of the ABA project. Some being educating the community and educating our younger generations, others being working with big corporations and other associations on how we can bring clean water and sustain clean water in places that don't have access to that necessity. And others are just working with the community on how we can add the nature element of our religion and incorporate that with water, and how we have our gardens and our Hafseen tables and all the naturistic elements that are involved in our religion. Yeah, so like Natasha mentioned, there are two really big parts of the AVA project. One is reviving the ancient cultures and the other is educating. And when they come together, we see a joining of the community. And Dr. Rose mentioned, the impact a community can have. And so the three goals that the AVA project works towards are goal 6, which is clean water and sanitization, goals 13, life underwater, and the final one being 17, collaboration, partnership. And so through these goals, the AVA project has made materials for the youth. It's been distributed worldwide. It was distributed at the 7th World Congress in New York City in 2022. Recently, at the Parliament of World Religions, this August in Chicago, the AVA project had a presence in the climate tent, and so we were able to discuss with other people around the world who have the same or similar initiatives to sort of mitigate the effects of climate change. In 2021, at the Parliament of World Religions, we had a session about the Kanat system and the Tanka system, which are these ancient Iranian systems that preserve water. And these systems have been here for hundreds and hundreds of years in dry climates like Iran has, and so many people don't know about them. So the AVA project is really working to connect the old ancient traditions we have and bringing it to the modern worlds that we have. And so we're very excited about the things that we'll be doing, and we encourage you to join. Please reach out to either Natasha or I, and we'd love to talk more about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natasha, and thank you, Martha. We're really very proud of you for initiating, joining, proposing, and going ahead with the project. Well done. And thank you, Jenny, for enlightening us with all the little things that we can do, the big things that we can do. There's always philanthropy and there's always this big money that goes out, but really and truly we need to examine ourselves and see where else can we make a difference in somebody else's life and have a growth in ourselves too. So we are running short of time, but if there is a couple of questions Jenny can answer, Jenny could, let me see, or you can talk during lunch? Okay, so at this point, I'd like to invite John Mystery to come out here, and we are going to be, he's going to tell us about how the breakout session is going to be working, and Charlene and Nazni, if you would please come out here and just take the mic and tell us what else is to be done. Zoom participants, we're sorry that some of you said that the sound wasn't that good. We tried to do the best we can, and I think at this point the Zoom participants are going to not be with us, but we will be back on time for Maria's talk, which is going to be at 1:30. So please do join in at 1:30. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you had a nice lunch. Yes? No? Maybe? Yes. So I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our own ZAH member, Maria, for the second talk of today. Maria is an enthusiastic and committed member of ZAH Library and Fires. He has a Master's of Science in Biochemistry as well as an MBA. He is employed by American companies where he held positions in scientific research, sales and marketing. After retiring in 2016, he immersed himself in an intense study of the Zoroastrian religion. His 2021 publication, Zoroastrian, The Man and the Message, is the culmination of his dedicated researches. His book offers an in-depth study of the Zoroastrian religion with an aim to resolve myths contradicting Zarathustra's teachings. The book offers a well-researched exegesis of the Bible and highlights the influence of the religion on other faiths and Western civilization. Marianne has also published articles on the Zoroastrian faith in the Fizana Journal, Sheer-e-Shireen, and Parsis. In addition, Marianne has conducted classes on the theology and history of the Zoroastrian religion for the North American Model Council, and he is currently presenting a ZAH class on the second Sunday of every month at our very own Parsis Church. Please join me in welcoming Marianne to address us today on the subject of power and politics, the birth of the younger Avesta.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Nazmi, for those kind words. Really appreciate that. I will start by thanking Aban Rustamji for inviting me and asking me to speak to you today. I'm very grateful to you for that. I also want to thank all the members of the library committee for their continued support and encouragement in all my endeavors. So I'm again very grateful to the entire team, and thank you all for all you do for me. So we're going to talk about the birth of the younger Avesta, how the younger Avesta came to be. Now, as you all probably well know, the Avesta corpus is divided into two portions. The older Avesta, which comprises of the Gathas, the Shimbo prayer, the Yathavar prayer, the Yangehatam, and the Yasna Tulgaitu. The rest of the Avesta falls under the younger Avesta. The Vandidas, the Yas, the Nyashis, Karya Avesta, the Spara, all those. Now, before I begin, it's important that we ask a question, and the question needs to be answered. And the question is the Zoroastrian religion monotheistic or dualistic? Or is the Zoroastrian religion polytheistic or is it henotheistic? And these questions are important because they go hand in hand with the birth of the younger Avesta. Now, if you're not familiar with the term henotheism, it was a word coined by the German philologist Friedrich Max Müller, and he defined henotheism as belief in one God in principle, but worshipping or venerating multiple gods in practice. So that's what henotheism means, and we will briefly touch on all these and see where the Zoroastrian religion falls. So, to begin with the story, we start at the cusp of the Stone Age and the Bronze Age. There were people who lived around the Caucasus Mountains, or the Caucasian steppes. And this is talking about 4,500 BCE before Common Era. And at this time, there were migrations taking place for a variety of reasons, mainly growth in population and the need for more resources. Now, at the same time, not necessarily at the same time, but in a span of years, the people over here, they either moved west towards Eastern Europe, or they moved south to the plateau of Iran. And around the 3rd millennium BCE, some of the people over here, they moved further south to the Indus Valley, and they became the Vedic people. But our focus is going to be on the plateau of Iran, the people over here. Now, these people, they were polytheistic. They believed in a number of gods, they venerated and worshipped a number of gods, and they were also very ritualistic. Everything had a deity. Abstract, in-abstract, material, concrete, inconcrete, everything had a deity. And every deity was called a Yazaka. And there was a Yas composed to the deity. And the Yas were mainly praises of the deity. They worshipped two intentions: to win divine favors for themselves in this life and the next, and also to strengthen God. They were very, very ritualistic, as I said. They made a lot of sacrifices, particularly animal sacrifices. The intent being that if the gods would be strong and happy, the gods would return the favor and make the people on earth happy and strong. That was the intention. They considered all celestial bodies, the rising and the setting of the sun, the waxing and waning of the moon, the movement of the stars, they were all controlled by some deity. In fact, they believed that the motion of the stars somehow had a control on human destiny. Now, around the 3rd millennium BCE, some of the people from the plateau of Iran, right over here, they moved further west of Iran, along the Zagros Mountains. They occupy the land that is known as media. Now, these are the people that we'll be focusing on and talking about at length. So, again, when they moved to the Zagros Mountains in this region, they continued the religious practices that they had on the plateau of Iran. They were very ritualistic and they believed in multiple gods. And this is something we'll come back to these people on this side in a bit, but hold this thought in mind. Now, Zarathustra was born in the Bronze Age. At a very young age, he learns all he can from the wise men of his day. His teachers instruct him in the knowledge based upon the tradition of the time, whatever the tradition was. But tradition demands that instruction be taken on blind faith. Don't ask us questions. We've been doing this for the last 2,000 years. We don't need to change. And even if you do your answers, you just swallow what we feed you. No need to question us. It's a tradition. We've been doing this. So Zarathustra was not going to buy that. Reason is shadowed by doubt, and doubt is the beginning of wisdom. So Zarathustra is a paragon of reason. Reason is very important to the Zoroastrian Gathas. And he's not certain that what he's being taught has any merit. So he doubts the wisdom of his teachers. So he decides that I'm going to learn by observation and thinking what affects humankind, what affects their behavior, and how can humans overcome the adversities that they face in life. He decides to figure that out on his own. Now, as I said, he was born in a polytheistic society and they believed in a number of gods. Now, back in Zarathustra's time, there were two groups of people. There were the settled people of the plains of Iran. They were agriculturalists and pastoralists. They tended to their crops and their livestock, and life was peaceful. But there was another group of people, the nomads, and they came from the north, and they invaded the lands of the settled people, and they stole their crops, destroyed the crops, stole their cattle, killed people. They were basically evil. And in fact, on a side note, the Zoroastrian hell or the devil resides in the north. And this is the reason, because evil came from the north and came from the cold, and the evil brought cold weather, which affected the people on the plateau of Iran. So that was their thinking, and the Zoroastrian, in fact, in the Kamnamasa prayer, we say, perish you evil, perish to the north, go back to the north, where you came from.
Maria, go close to the mic.
Oh, sorry. So as Zarathustra contemplates on the cause of wickedness in the world through his own good mind, he's using his inward vision and his inward eye. And he understands that there is only one guiding principle. I said principle, not being. One guiding principle, one guiding force in nature that is full with wisdom, and he calls that our master. So he spends his time in seclusion as he ponders on the cause of evil, cause of wickedness, and how to overcome evil, what to do, what people need to do. So he is, and that's in Yasna 29. If you're familiar with the Gathas, you know that. Now, revelation comes to him at the age of 30. He sees Zoroaster in his mind's eye. No Zoroaster spoke to him. Zoroaster is an intangible, ineffable force. It's an energy. Invisible forces cannot speak to anyone. The Zoroastrian religion is not a fairy tale, and you will hear me say that many times. The Zoroastrian religion is not a fairy tale. It is a powerful religion, and we need to dispel all these notions about the fairy tales and all that out of our minds. So he is using his intellect, his wisdom, and his power of reasoning. He is using what he calls Bahumana, the good mind. And the good mind is composed of wisdom, intellect, and reasoning. So he recognizes and acknowledges one supreme force with fixed, unchanging laws of nature for humankind's benefit. He realizes that there is polarity in nature. And he realizes that there is one constructive force, Hauramaster, which is a constructive force, has a counter-destructive force that he calls Angramayana. Now, Angramayana is not a Western word, it's a Pali word, but it's used as an evil force. So he realizes that there is one constructive force and there is a counter-destructive force, and this is his revelation. So his society is steeped in this cup of despair. So he decides that I want to teach people the path of righteousness. I want to take them away from all this wickedness and how to overcome the wickedness that people encounter and experience in life, what they need to do. So he is understanding, he's contemplating and experiencing nature and how nature works. So he wants to establish a new social order and to found a new moral world. He speaks of his faith in terms of a universal religion. The religion is not for 100,000 or 150,000 people scattered around the world. It is for anyone who wants to follow the religion. He is convinced that the religion he is to preach is the best for all mankind, and that's in Yasna 31.3. So Zoroaster is moving his people from a polytheistic mindset to a monotheistic mindset. He is using his intellect, wisdom, and rationality, and he links his beliefs to his observation in ways that enable his beliefs to endure. So Zoroaster proclaims how we must to be the one and only eternal, uncreated God and creator of everything that is good. Now he rejects all the Hezekiahs in the Gathas. He rejects all the Hezekiahs that the people of his time venerated and worshipped. His doctrine evokes 6 attributes to Holy Master that we call Amisha Spenters. Now the term Amisha Spenters does not occur in the Gathas, but the individual attributes are all over the Gathas. And the Gathas make the point that to perfect ourselves and to perfect our society, we have to incorporate those attributes, those manifestations within ourselves and live according to those attributes, and then we achieve perfection. So he rejects all the Hezekiahs. Now you may say that, wait a minute, no, there is Sarosha and Ashi and Akar in the Gathas. Yes, they are. But they are not deities. They are attributes. Sarosha is an attribute of obedience. Obedience to what? Obedience to the laws of nature. Ashi is recompense. Sorry? Ashi is recompense. Meaning, if you do good, you get good in return. You do bad, you will get bad in return. What you sow, you will reap. That is the essence of Ashi. And then Akar is fire, righteousness. So they are not really deities in the Gathas, although they are personified in various stanzas, but they're not really supposed to be venerated as gods. You may also say that in Yasna 46.5, Mithra and Rashna are mentioned. They're mentioned as Mithra and Rashnu. They're not mentioned as proper nouns, but as common nouns. Again, they are attributes that we must follow. Mithra is for rectitude, righteousness, and Rashnu is justice. Very important characteristics, attributes in the Zoroastrian religion. Now, I just want to touch on this very briefly. People say that the Zoroastrian religion is a dualistic religion. Well, not really, it's not. Dualism in the classical sense means that there are 2 equal powers acting in concert. That is not the case in the Zoroastrian religion. However, is not equal to Angremania, and Angremania is not a creator. They are independent and they act on their own. They are uncreated and independent, and they work in opposition to each other. So the Zoroastrian religion is strictly monotheistic and not dualistic. So Zoroaster preaches a monotheistic religion. His teachings in the Gathas are centered on the worship of the God, creator, sustainer, who is transcendent, inspirational, and eternal. His revelation is from this one supreme power that highlights nature's message of reward and punishment, consistent with one's thought, word, and deed, to make the world perfect and to make ourselves perfect in the process. Monotheism is strictly ingrained in the Gathas in the most unambiguous terms. People say, recently there are many scholars who say, oh, the Zoroastrian religion is not a monotheistic religion, it's a polytheistic religion. No, it's not. That's not what Zoroaster gave us. He gave us a monotheistic religion, strictly a monotheistic religion. So, Holy is the only one worthy of worship. He is without beginning or end, unchanging and eternal. He appears only in his attributes as the Amisha Spenters. Now, we're going to switch gears. We're going to talk a bit of history. Now, through my presentation, I will talk a little bit about history, and you may find that not relevant to the subject. It is very relevant. For the younger of us that will be born, it has to be conceived. And the conception is the history that I will share with you. So we're going to start with who are the Medes. Now we talked about earlier that the people from the Iranian plateau moved westward towards the ZAH Mountains in the Median territory. So the Indo-Iranian group that separated from the Indo-Iranian plateau, they became part of Media. Now we don't know much about their early history. One thing we do know is that their society was composed of 6 tribes, and one of the tribes was the Magi. The Magi were responsible and controlled everything and anything that had to do with religion. They were full authority and full control. You could not do anything religious without their consent and without their say-so. So the Medes initially were vassals of the Assyrians. So when they moved, the people from the plateau of Iran moved to the ZAH Mountains, towards Media. That area was under the control of the Assyrians. The Assyrians started demanding tributes, taxes. The Medians were not willing to pay. So they revolted, they overthrew the Assyrians, and they formed the Median Empire. And forming the Median Empire, they in turn made all of Persia vassals. They were vassal territories. So this is, oops, sorry. So this is Media over here proper, and these are all the tributaries or the vassal territories of the rest of Persia. So the Median Empire comes to an end. Astyages was the last Median king. What made him the last Median king? His daughter Mandani was married to Cambyses I. Cambyses was a Persian. He is part of the Achaemenid family. I'm going to show you the tree in a second. Cambyses was a vassal and the chieftain of Anshan, territory in Persia that was called Anshan. They had a son, Cyrus II, who becomes Cyrus the Great in time. So he becomes chieftain of Anshan after his father's death. Astyages was proving to be a tyrant and rebelled against his rule was brewing. Parsis was a general in Astyages' army. So he gathers some Median nobles and they ask Cyrus, who was a vassal of Anshan, hey, can you join us? We would overthrow Astyages and be done with him, we are tired of him. Cyrus overthrows Astyages and he establishes the Achaemenid Empire. With Media now part of the Achaemenid Empire, the Magi, the priestly class, the priestly people, they become part of the Persian Empire. The Median Empire was short-lived, just about 200 years. This is Anshan over here. Just want to show you where Anshan was. This is where Cyrus was the chieftain. He was a vassal, satrap, governor of this province. So this is the Achaemenid dynasty. It starts with Achaemenes. Achaemenes means having a benevolent or friendly mind, a basic Zoroastrian concept. There were Zoroastrians, so the Achaemenids were Zoroastrians, unlike the Medes. And our focus is going to be on Cyrus II, who starts the Achaemenid Empire. His 2 sons. Now over here, if you look at Darius, Darius becomes the king of Persia at one point. But Darius is not in the line of succession. How did he get to become king? We'll see that, and it's important for our story. Now, he was married to 2 of Cyrus's daughters, Archistone and Atossa. Cyrus had one other daughter, Roxanne. Now, Darius is actually, he had 4 wives. Anyway, so 2 of the wives were Cyrus's daughters. Now, that doesn't mean just because you're married to the king's daughter, you don't become king. Not necessarily, it doesn't work that way. Those in line of succession are Cambyses II and Bardia. So now what happens? Now, Cyrus, as we know, he believed and actually promoted separation of church and state. That's very much, that edict is very much prominent on the well-known Cyrus cylinder. So, people say that Cyrus was not a Zoroastrian. He was not a Zoroastrian maybe in practice, but he certainly was of Zoroastrian origin. He had Zoroastrian roots, for sure. Oops. Now the Magi, since Cyrus was tolerant towards all religions, the Magi continued their pagan pre-Zoroastrian religion that they practiced on the Iranian plateau. Now the Magi were conservative, and Magi were now part of the Persian Empire. They were very conservative and they were not inclined to adopt the Zoroastrian religion as practiced by the Iranian priests, the Atharvans. The Atharvans were followers of Zarathustra. They had also changed over time after Zarathustra's death. Changes did take place, but nothing drastic. So the Atharvans were still very much their thinking was, and practices were very much in line with what Zarathustra had taught the people. Now, Cambyses II, he comes to the throne after Cyrus's death. Now, Cambyses has Bardia was the other son of Cyrus. So Cambyses has Bardia killed because he is concerned that Bardia will overthrow him, will rise to him and kill him and maybe take over the throne of Persia. In those days, they killed their brothers, they killed their fathers, they killed their sons, they killed everybody that got in the way. So Cambyses has his brother killed. Now, Bardia's murder was kept a secret. The rest of Persia, besides a handful of people, did not know that Bardia was dead. Now, the Magi were not in the good graces of the Persians, and the Magi were not good happy because Cambyses' father had invaded Media, and by doing that, they had lost their priestly elite status, their control, their power. They had lost that. So they were not happy. Their pride was punctured, and they wanted to regain what they had lost. So Parsis was a magus of the Magi tribe. He was in the service of Cambyses II. Now, at this point in time, Cambyses is in Egypt on a military expedition. Now, Parsis has a brother, Gaumata. Gaumata is also a magus. He has a striking resemblance to Bardia. He was very much alike to Bardia. So they decide, the Magi decide, okay, Cambyses is in Egypt, so we will make Gaumata appear as Bardia and sitting on the Persian throne. And when Cambyses comes back, we will revolt and we'll kick him out. Cambyses is in Egypt. Word gets to him that people back home are plotting against you. So the Magi started a rebellion in Persia, which came to the attention of Cambyses. Now, story has it, there are many variations of how he died. One of them is that he was trying to mount his horse in coming back to Persia. But in doing that, he stabbed himself accidentally with a sword. That caused complications, and he was ready to die. So on his deathbed, Cambyses admits to having Bardia killed, his brother killed. But since the murder was a secret, people still thought that Bardia was sitting on the Persian throne, but it was really Gaumata. Bardia was dead. Gaumata was the imposter, the impersonator. So very soon, Gaumata was revealed as an imposter, and the nobles of the Achaemenid court conspired to kill the imposter. They sought the service of Darius I. And Darius is in the Achaemenid family. Like I said, he's not in the line of succession, but he's part of the Achaemenid family. So they solicit his help, Darius' help. Hey, listen, we got to get rid of this Gaumata. He's an imposter. He's not Achaemenid. He's not Bardia. So the Magi were doing everything possible to keep Gaumata on the throne, as they wanted to regain the status they enjoyed as the priest in Media. It was a matter of their pride. So Darius with the 7 co-conspirators, they killed Gaumata, and Darius becomes king by some trickery. They devise a competition. So Darius and the other nobles of the Achaemenid court, who's going to sit on the Persian throne? Who's going to be the next king? So Darius cheats them, and he becomes king of Persia. Now all this is on the Behistun inscriptions. This is Darius with his foot on Gaumata, and these are all the Magi under arrest. So now we come to the second part of the Achaemenid Empire. The importance over here is that this is the point where the Zoroastrian religion starts to decline, and we will see the birth of the younger Avesta coming into effect. So Darius I has Xerxes one of his son. He is the son of Atossa, Cyrus's daughter, one of the daughters. So that makes Cyrus grandfather of Xerxes. So anyway, so Xerxes the first, Xerxes, and this is another person that we will be concerned with briefly. So at this point, this is where the Zoroastrian religion starts to decline. Now, the existence of the Magi in Media was an obstacle. Back during Xerxes' days, and even after his death, there were missionaries who had gone to far-off places to convert people to the Zoroastrian religion. The Magi were conservative, as we said, very traditionalist. They were not going to change. They refused to accept Xerxes' teachings. Zarathustra had little sympathy for formalism, something the Magi were very well known for. They were into excessive rituals. Zarathustra was not into rituals. And a hereditary priestly class. Back in Zarathustra's days, you did not have to be the son of a priest to be a priest. Anyone could be a priest. Women could be priests. The Magi had developed attempts with the Persian missionaries to accept Zarathustra religion. The Magi resented the faith so much that they accused Zarathustra of blasphemy. Now, during Darius' time, Darius was a monotheist, and he was also very much into Zoroaster and believed in the Zoroastrian religion. The only thing is that on any of his inscriptions, he does not mention Zarathustra by name, but he does mention Zoroaster. A great God is Zoroaster. Zoroaster is the greatest of gods. He created me and made me king. Whatever I did, all with the will of Zoroaster, I did it. So he was very much into Zoroaster. And Darius was no fan of the Magi because of their religious beliefs. So Darius passes away. Xerxes I comes to the throne. Now Xerxes was a great king, no question about it. We know that. But as far as religion went, he did not have a clue about what the Zoroastrian religion taught, what the doctrines were, what the teachings were. He had very little idea of any at all. So Xerxes is the one who first gets murdered. Artaxerxes comes to the throne, and then Xerxes II and then Sogdianus, both of the brothers are killed by Orcus, who comes to be known as Darius II, and he sits on Darius II sits on the Achaemenid Persian throne. So the Magi quickly took advantage of the poor knowledge, if any, that Xerxes the following kings had of the Zoroastrian religion, and they started to influence the monarchs about their beliefs and their practices of religion. So the emergence of the Magi as the Macedonian priests in the post-Darius period was a socio-religious event in the Macedonian religion with considerable political implications, politics and power. So the Magi were allowed to continue as priests if they agreed to officiate in the Zoroastrian services of Zoroaster. If you want to practice your religion, sure, go ahead. But you also have to serve Zoroaster and Zarathustra's teachings, whatever they understood to be. So they did that along with servicing the polytheistic communities that they had serviced for centuries. Now the Magi were eclectic, very assorted, and they were professional priests. They had no allegiance to any one particular god. You want me to pray to God ABC? Sure, I'll pray to God ABC. You want to pray to God XYZ? Sure, I'll pray to God XYZ, no problem. They were professional. They didn't have any allegiance to any particular deity or god. Now it was during the reign of Artaxerxes and then Darius II that the laxity to strict monotheism started happening, and the beliefs becoming more polytheistic. The Magi were influencing the kings. Mithra was the number one god in the Median pantheon, in the pre-Zoroastrian Indo-Iranian pantheon. Mithra was top, and then the other deities followed. Anaita was just as important. So Mithra and Anaita were becoming deities to venerate. Thanks to the Magi, they started venerating Mithra and Anaita. Artaxerxes actually builds a temple dedicated to Anaita, thanks to the Magi. They talked him into it, and he built a temple to Anaita. Anaita is Ardavisravano, as we call her. So with the monarchs now leaning more and more towards Magi beliefs, the other ones, the Persian priests, the ones who were following Xerxes' teachings, they gravitated to what the kings advocated. They had to survive. So for their own survival, they said, we don't have enough choice. The kings are saying, now the separation of church and state that Cyrus had instituted was being eroded. At this point and later on, there was no separation of church and state. The church was the state was the church. So the Atharvans had no choice. They started also following what the Magi were advocating because the kings were saying so. The religious authority was now under the control of the kings. The seeds of a polytheistic Avestan canon resembling the younger Avesta were sown, perverting Zarathustra's religion. So polytheism instituted with the Magi was becoming entrenched with the reign of Artaxerxes I. Now the Magi had gained favors of the royal house, of the kings. And by doing that, they had not given up their cults, the gods that they worshipped, that they believed and they were venerated. They became political because they also got involved in affairs of the state. Not just spiritual matters, they also started influencing the kings on how to manage and how to govern the country. The kings somehow liked that, what they were told. So the kings, in return, okay, we'll follow what you're saying about religion. So the stimulus to the adoption by the royal house of a polytheism masquerading as avastic was provided by the consistent eclectic attitude of the Magi. The exclusive monotheism, which Darius and of course Zarathustra had insisted, was eroded. Now, while Zarathustra's teachings were on the decline, his fame and prestige as the founder of a great religion was not waning. People still recognize that Zarathustra had left religion with him, had taught some good principles. He was a great philosopher, scholar, whatever you want to call it. They did respect Zarathustra as a good, great human being. So the Asravans took advantage of this and attributed the new polytheistic Avastan canon to Zarathustra, thus maintaining their bona fides as Zoroastrian priests. The Magi, they were now a prominent presence in Eastern Iran. They introduced their own purification rites, the beginnings of the Vandida. Given the religious climate of the land, the Atharvans thought it politically advantageous to add these novel beliefs as the Magi were given to the existing Zoroastrian doctrines. Hence, the Atharvans presented a scripture of varied heritage. It was not anything to do with what Zarathustra had taught. It was a varied heritage, which the Magi had originated. The intent of this new scripture was not to persuade anyone of anything, but to conform to what everyone from the monarch down to the common man was ready to accept. A narrow denominational religion turned into a pan-Iranian one. The Magi religion, in a small focus, small group, now was part of the entire Iranian nation. So now the repertoire of the new pan-Iranian religion had all the frills of Magi beliefs. But if that's the case, then why did the Magi not demand recognition into the scripture? If they had challenged the new scripture, not with Zarathustra, but their own ideology, they would have no standing as priests. Who's going to believe it? Oh, it's yours? Forget it. Oh, Zarathustra said that. Okay, all right, okay, we're going to accept it. So the only sensible thing for them to do was to take satisfaction in the establishment of their beliefs in the revised Zoroastrian canon and accept Zarathustra as a prophet. They had not accepted Zarathustra as a prophet for the longest time. But now they saw a political need, a kind of a selfish need to accept Zarathustra as the prophet, which they did in the 4th century BC. Surreptitiously, the Magi became Zoroastrians. The Magi self-converted. They self-converted. Furthermore, by the time the Magi established their status as true Zoroastrians, the Avastan canon was already formed and could no longer be interfered with except in the arrangement or restoration of sections that were considered missing. But now that the Magi had adopted Zarathustra as the prophet, they had to conform. But conform to what? To conform to anything, you have to know what you're conforming to. So, to understand Zarathustra's message, when they were actually crediting Zarathustra with the very doctrines and beliefs that Zarathustra had disavowed, they had only one source to go to, and that was the Gathas. So to forestall any objections, so people will say, oh, wait a minute, Zarathustra is monotheism, what are you talking about, polytheism? So to forestall that kind of objection, what they did was, they created a catechism, a question and answer between Hazrat and Zarathustra. Hazrat asked this, Zarathustra said this, Zarathustra asked that, and we see that in many of our scriptures. So they grabbed the Magi, they grabbed priestly power from the Atharvans, the Zoroastrian Persian priests. This is just a picture of the Vandida. So phrasing the beliefs and the rules in the Vandida and the Younger Avastra, we see that in the Yas, as a catechism, question and answer, that gave the false impression that the rites were very Zarathustrian. When the Sassanians came to power, the Magi were well established as the true followers of Zarathustra. And the Sassanian historians, they actually declared Media as when Zarathustra was born. That was his homeland. Not true. Zarathustra was born in Eastern Iran. So the reason for this misinformation was that the Magi wanted to claim they were the true heirs and custodians of the Zoroastrian religion. They grasped power. It was all about power. They were getting back for what Cyrus had done to their nation and their status as priests. After the Achaemenid Empire, after Alexander invaded Persia, the Seleucids and Parthians came, and during those eras, the Zoroastrian religion was kind of in limbo. Nobody really knew what was going on and what to do. Just kind of, the Zoroastrian religion was just there. Adesha I, he was the first Sasanian monarch, and he wanted to reignite the Zoroastrian religion and make it the state religion, which he did. But Adesha was of Magian persuasion. He was a Zoroastrianite. Zoroastrianism is a Zoroastrian heresy. He was a Zoroastrianite, so all the beliefs that he wanted to put back were really Magian beliefs in the name of Zarathustra. So Adesha had a chief priest named Kansa. Kansa declared that Zoroastrian faith had decayed under the Seleucids and Parthians. In that much he was right. Kansa gave full authority to Adesha. You go ahead and make the changes you want. Remember what I said? The church and state were no longer separate. The church was the state was the church. So Kansa, as the priest, said, "Oh, you are the monarch, you king. You tell me what you want to do, what changes you want. You tell me, I'll make the changes as high priest." So Kansa took charge to collect the fragmented teachings and directed which to preserve and which to discard. So, oh, we like this, we'll keep this. Oh, this doesn't make, we don't like this, doesn't not. You can take it out. So it was kind of a mishmash of the original Zoroastrian teachings. So the Avastas presented was a jumbled collection of different creeds to which different communities were attached. It was an anthology, a compilation, a record of cults from ancient Arabian times passed out as Zoroastrian principles as revealed to Zarathustra. Now, since the time of Zarathustra, the transmission of these scriptures and everything was done orally. Due to that, there were priests in various parts of the country. There was nothing written down. So a priest over here in this part of the country would say one thing to the congregation, and he would adapt his sermon, so to speak, to what the congregation wanted, what they believed in. A priest over here, another part of the country, he said what he wanted to. Over here, another priest, he said what he wanted to. So the continued adherence to a range of pre-Zoroastrian Indo-Iranian beliefs ensured that the elements of a polytheistic system survived side by side of whatever Zoroastrian doctrines that were accumulated. The Yas actually were composed in the 5th century ACE, after Common Era. In the year roughly around somewhere after 400, between 400 and 500 Common Era. They were the works, the Yas were the works of multiple authors and belonged to a religious system that had moved a long way from its roots in time and location. So the Yas were really compositions going back to pre-Zarathustra, when the Indo-Iranians were composing Yas to the different Yazagas of that day. So while maintaining Zarathustra's teachings on the existence of two causes of good and evil, which is in the Gathas are all about a struggle between good and evil, the younger Avesta created a complex system maintaining the teachings of Zarathustra along with the beliefs of the people who lived on the Iranian plateau. In fact, we see that very much in the Kemenomisra prayer. The first two portions of Kemenomisra prayer are from the Gathas. One is from, the first portion is from 46.7, then it's 44.16, I believe. I could be off on the number. And then from Partner to Bishan of Payavasraus, that is from the Vandidad, forget 8.21. And then the very last sentence in Investor Yamati, that again is from the Gathas. So the Gathas mixed with the Vandidad, mixed with some other prayers. That was how the Kemenomisra prayer and other prayers were composed. So most of the religious texts now existing in the young Avastan, such as Miyashis and the Yas, have been used by Iranian tribes from time immemorial for purpose of ritual observance, developing the usual way, adapting their language to contemporary usage, meaning usage of the time, sharing passages which came to seem obscure, and adding others that were felt to be felicitous. Here we have, Here we have Artaxerxes. He's praying to Anaita, who's standing on lion's back, and behind her is Mithra. So where is Zoroaster? Nowhere. This is Artaxerxes II. That's a relief. It's somewhere in Persia. So he is praying to the Magian gods, not Zoroaster. Now, the Magi are not mentioned anywhere in the Avesta. The term Naga does appear in the Gatha 6 times, but all these terms are not at all related to the Median tribe, the Magi. The Maga or Magava in the Gathas refers to fellowship Zarathustra has evolved. The Avestan texts do not recognize the Magi. The forms derived from the term Maga, great occurring in the Gathas and the later Avesta, do not represent this priestly class. And this is one is from Jawaharlal. Many of you know him, still alive and well in Canada, and this is from ZAH. Now, I'm going to share with you what Zoroastrian Parsis, Zoroastrian priest scholars have said about what I just talked to you up to this point. Edward Sheer-e-Shireen Darwe-Bharucha, he was a scholar, a priest. What does he say? But the light of modern research, it has become increasingly clear that only the 5 Gathas are the genuine compositions of Zarathustra Pitama, while the rest of the Avesta are compositions of other priests in more or less later times after the death of the prophet. Dara Peshwar Sanjana, he was the high priest of the Routledge Atishbara in Bombay in the 1920s. What does he say? The Gathas plainly preserve Zoroastrianism in its purest and in most original form, as the founder of the sublime religion has thought out and imparted it. Mr. Manikidala, the divinities to the pre-Zoroastrian Iranians paid the homage in all of whom were conspicuously absent in the Gathas and now pervade the entire Zoroastrian religion. The Zoroastrian religion comes from the Magi. Today's practice, most of it comes from the Magi, not from Zarathustra. Well, some does, but most of it is from the Magi. Dr. Farhan Mayo, an Iranian Zoroastrian scholar. The reappearance of the pre-Zoroastrian deities in the younger Avesta, and the resemblance of ritualistic adorations directed to the Yazidas in the Yas can conveniently be explained as a political intrusion into the religion, most likely at the hands of the Magi, the guardians of the pre-Zoroastrian Indo-Iranian beliefs. They had not accepted Zarathustra as a prophet or his teachings back then. Manasya Navalji is another scholar. The writings of the Vandida, Yasna, and Yas have no direct connection with the life books of Zarathustra, which we find in the Gathas. Edward Dr. Jawaharlal, the Magi, priestly caste of media, assert the religious authority from their corresponding counterparts, the Atharvas, and added a number of innovations to Zoroastrianism. This leaves little doubt that what Zarathustra's practice today as Zoroastrianism is a syncretic, a mishmash faith distinct from the Gatha taught by Zarathustra. Never has a great religious thinker been more grossly travestied. Zarathustra, he's been travestied by his own followers, who displayed to the obscure purity of his monotheistic vision, travestied of the Magi. They call him a magician, an astrologer, and a quack. The Zoroastrian priesthood soon fell into the hands of a priestly caste of median nationality, the Magi. They were a hereditary priestly caste whose presence was indispensable. They were professional priests. Their presence was indispensable to any Iranian religious ceremony, Zoroastrian or not. And they it was who presented so curious and distorted an image of the prophet Zoroaster to the West. In the younger Avesta, Zoroaster still has a status as this creator of all things, all wise and beneficent, as he appears in the Gathas. But the term that does not appear in the younger Avesta. The term Yazidas, equivalent in modern terminology to God, while altogether absent from the Gathas, occurs all over the younger Avesta. In the Yas to Mithra, Marias, Zoroaster is equal to Mithra. In the Yas, Zoroaster performs a sacrifice to certain of them. Zoroaster performs a sacrifice to these lower deities that Zoroaster doesn't recognize, that Zoroaster didn't recognize. But according to the Yas, some of the Yas, Zoroaster is actually doing favors for these lower deities. So in the younger Avesta, Zoroaster is famous. He's number one, only in respect of his name. The compiler of the Younger Avesta insistently represents Zoroaster's sole God as approving that Zoroaster approves of the polytheism the prophet had prohibited. It said no, with the result that Zoroaster himself is portrayed as a polytheist. Zoroaster is praised in the Zoroastrian Gospels in a monotheistic strain, but gradually brought down from his high dignity to an equality with inferior gods. We meet with one or two parallels of this in the later Avesta. Mithra is in the later Avesta, Marius, associated with Zoroaster as his equal. In 2 or 3 later years, Zoroaster is represented as revering the inferior Zoroasters. Now, is this true? Let's see if it's true. Mithra, as I said, was the supreme deity in the pre-Zoroaster pantheon of the Indo-Iranians before their migration to Media. So the Magi deprop Mithra to be equal to Zoroaster in the composition of the Marias. Is it true? Yes, Marias Karda 1, translated by none other than a priest, a scholar, Kavaji Irajikanga. The creator Zoroaster spoke of the Spitma Zarathustra. When I created the Spitma Zarathustra ZAH, the Lord of White Pastures, I created him as worthy of worship as myself, Zoroaster. He's equal to me. That's Zoroaster is telling Zarathustra that you should be also worship Mithra because he's equal to me. In the Ramyas, Zoroaster is subordinate to Vayu. Vayu is one of the deities who is a deity of the atmosphere, the space between the earth and the heavens. So in the Ramyas, Zoroaster is subordinate to Vayu. Zoroaster is subordinate to Vayu, seeking boons. Zoroaster is asking boons from Vayu in this Yasasa. Ramyas Karda 2. The creator Zoroaster worships Vayu in the Aryan Avaja in the proximity of the river Vedaitya. That Zoroaster asked Vayu Yasasa, "O powerful Vayu Yasasa, grant thou this below mentioned boon unto me, that I may smite the people." Zoroaster wants permission and blessings from a lower deity to smite evil. Makes perfect sense. Powerful Yasasa granted him the boon, so that the creator Zoroaster obtained his wish. In the Amayast, Zoroaster asked under Silvano, Ava user, "Please help me so I can get Zarathustra, I can give him the power of thought, word, and deed to promote my religion." So this is what the Magi did. They kind of propped up their gods and made them equal to, or even sometimes more important than the god that Zarathustra had laid down. The Younger Avesta contains many of the pre-Zoroastrian concepts, gods, and practices. This means that some of the pagan gods and rituals were reintroduced into the Zoroastrian religion and were placed in the Younger Avesta as the word of the prophet. The Magi diluted and polluted the nobility and theological beauty of Zarathustra's religion. This is all from different scholars. Now, you may say, what about faith? Shouldn't we have faith? But yeah, faith is important. If Zarathustra was sitting with us over here today, he would very much agree with what ZAH says about faith. What does he say? When doubt assails me, Zarathustra had doubts about what his teachers were teaching him back then. When doubt assails me and faith grows dim and fails me, lead me, however, from destructive doubt to reasoned faith. Let my faith be wedded to reason. Faith is important, but my faith must be wedded to reason. It must make sense. And let it be based on conviction. Give me faith and more faith, but not the blind faith. Give me the seeking, discerning faith of the amity. Amity is the manifestation of devotion. Devotion to what? Devotion to the laws of Zoroaster, devotion to the laws of nature. So give me the seeking, discerning faith of devotion to the laws, and save me from the weakness of a credulous mind. I don't want to be naive and gullible and take in everything that's thrown at me. I want to reason, think, and then buy into it. Oh, Jamana, thou best mind. Now, there are many Zoroastrians who deny the syncretism of this monotheistic doctrines with the Magi. Oh, the Magi never happened. It tells that if it goes on certain websites written by some certain Zoroastrian space, whatever. Oh, Magi, no, never happened. They totally want to discard and reject history. They either choose to reject historical evidence or rewrite history. Not much different from what's happening in this country today. The governor of Florida says, oh, slavery was beneficial to the blacks. They're banning books, just as it's happening in India. They're removing mobile artifacts from museums because they don't want to be associated. They don't like their past history. History is history. It happened. Accept it. This happened. Accept it. They provide no evidence. Those who deny history, they provide no evidence of the position that they hold. Recently, Pishwaran Sanjara, another high priest of the Vajrayana Freedom back in the 1920s, he says an author's or his work's merit should be decided not by the opinions which he holds, but by the kind of evidence on which he holds them. Those evidence that I gave you. Berambo Chamarasarya was a great scholar. And in 1906, he gave a lecture in Bombay on the corridor water flows. And actually, if you're interested, you can look this up in Fazana in the fall 2023 issue of Fazana, and the entire lecture is in that journal. And there's a section with the misconceptions of wishes fulfilled were praised that yes, Nilam is in magic. The Zoroastrian religion is not a fairy tale. It is a very powerful religion. Stop making a mockery of it. Presently, many Zoroastrians believe in the myth that and these are Berambo's words taken from his lecture. Many Zoroastrians believe in the myth that if they pray certain yas with piety, then the planets affecting the faith, the Quran and Jaram, and the will affecting the faith will be dispelled. To spread such a Zoroastrian religion, applying such weak thoughts, ill-educated Hindu astrologers and their Parsis students were successful in returning matters related to the religion back to the Dark Ages, back to the pre-Zoroastrian Indo-Iranian days. To think that the planets would follow their course and change their laws to strengthen the faith of a Zoroastrian whose faith is weak, to believe that a Zoroastrian can change by selfish prayers the rules of fixed law of nature, the fixed law of creation, they are full stops. Zoroastrian religion is not a fairy tale. To believe that mirrors and amulets will magically ward off illnesses are weak thoughts full of business ideas. Again, there are many websites which talk about if you pray this, yes, your headache will go away. If you pray the Ama, yes, you'll get pregnant and you have a safe delivery and you will have all that. And, forgive me. Our Zoroastrian religion, based on the rules of good deeds, does not teach anyone anywhere to have such inferior beliefs. Words from Berambo Al-Pasarya. So coming to an end, one more slide. The Catholic Zoroastrians is the true religion. They later understand the divergence and corruption of that truth. The Zoroastrians advocated a fastidious monotheism. The Magi had special customs which they infiltrated into their adopted religion. Now, rituals are important. Rituals are not important. Rituals are important. They have a place. But rituals are meant to symbolize the principles of the religion. They have evolved. They have changed into substituting performance for meaning. We do rituals, but we have no idea what the ritual means. We just sit there, put a sukkah, put a roman, put in, it's done. This is the meaning behind the ritual. The ritual is to inspire you on the principles of the religion. A prime example is the misuse concept of mantras. Mantra. For vibrations, those vibrations. There is no such thing as vibrations. Believe me, there is no such thing as vibrations. Rather than understanding the meaning, mantra means from the mind. We inspire in your mind, man. Rather than understanding their meaning, they have degenerated into formulas that pretend to affect the divine. By mantra, Zarathustra meant a word of prophetic inspiration, not idle incantation. Bring back to Parsis of the Rathas in Integrate Meaningful Sermons. This is Professor James of Morton, and this is from his book. The answer to the question: is the Zoroastrian religion monotheistic, dualistic, polytheistic? Is a henotheistic religion, monotheistic in name, polytheistic in practice. Thank you.
Do you have time for a couple of questions?
Sure, yeah. I'll try.
Are there any questions on chat? Is there any questions out here?
Go ahead.
You're saying that we don't.
Are you getting
Yeah, just the mic's coming.
There are no vibrations.
I'm sorry.
Are there vibrations? So our prayers have no vibrational effect.
Of course, there are vibrations. Sound has vibrations. Of course, there's no vibrational effects. No, if you pray, you can't By prayer, you can't create rain, you can't stop the rain, you can't stop illness, you can't do that.
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying, is there any frequencies to our prayers?
I'm sorry.
They're called sound frequency vibration.
Sound vibrations, I guess sound has vibrations, of course sound is vibrations. But the vibrations have no effect as such to do things for you. They don't give you boons, they don't give you
I know it doesn't give you any magical powers,
No.
but it exists, right?
Vibrations, of course vibrations are there, but they're not, if you're praying, if you're saying a Shembo and a Shembo, the vibrations of Shembo will deliver something for you. If you want something, that's not going to
But
happen.
it changes the atmosphere of your room, right? If you have like a negative thought, that vibration, that Shembo that you're saying, like if you go into a space and that area where you are at has someone in the area has a bad energy, let's say.
I don't know.
And
I don't. If you want to believe in that, that's your belief, and that's fine.
I was just asking.
No.
Thank you, Maria. That was very informative. In your opinion, what should we be praying every day? If we don't have to pray, yes, then everything else.
Our prayers are not about even the gathas. They're not about getting some favors from a higher power. Our prayers are directions as to what you need to do to fulfill what you want. That's why praying, you're not going to fulfill anything. As Dr. Bagley says in his book, the Zoroastrian religion is a religion of action. So prayer, the gathas are full of directions. The gathas are not really, there's nothing really prayer in the gathas, if you think about it. If you read the gathas, there's no prayer as such. They're all directions, they're guides, they are means to achieve a harmonious, happy, productive life for yourself and for society.
First of all, I'd like to thank the library committee and Kazana for organizing this lecture. I hope we can continue having these lectures in the future, maybe with also some counter views compared to what was presented today. Maybe I heard what you presented today, and what was presented was almost presented as a fact, as a payoff that this is what it is, and the other side that has a different position does not have enough evidence. I'm not a very learned person, but what I do know that people who have spent their entire life doing research, who are essentially priests and who are bought madrasas and who have done PhDs in Avastas, and many other people completely disagree with what you presented. And I'm saying this in a very respectful manner. What you have presented is actually a distortion of our religion, and I want to make sure the community out here is not misled. What we have presented today, again very respectfully, is that the gathas are the only teachings that Lord Zarathustra said, and everything else was done by the man. That cannot be further from the truth. Just logically, I want people to step back and think that Lord Zarathustra was on this planet Earth for how many years? 77 years. And you think in those 77 years, the only thing he did was give us the gathas, 18 chapters. Was it in bypass in the rest of his 77 years? No. Lord Zarathustra gave us 21 nuts, 21 volumes. Each of those 21 volumes relates to the 21 words in the Yatha Ahubedyo. Yatha is related to oneness. Ahu is another. And those 21 nas were presented in the court of King Vistasa when he cured the horse. No magical, no proof, essentially. He did not show proof for all of your tradition. Let me continue, please. And I'm saying this without giving any slides. Again, complete respect. And the one Vidar is one of those nas which was preserved. And the reason the one Vidar was preserved is because the priests memorized. And when all our scriptures and all the 21 nas were destroyed, the one Vidar was not destroyed, it was destroyed. But because of memorization, it was preserved. The one Vidar is so important to us in all our religious settings, according to you, which really are religious. Let me give the people in this room, I'm not trying to convince you, but I want to make sure that the lady in this country and in this room are not misled by something that is not accurate. The Vanida is said by a priest who becomes and goes through a Malkab ceremony. If the Vanida was not there is no Malkab ceremony. I guess that was made up. The Vanida is prayed when we consecrate others' Virans and others' Agyans. In fact, when we did the others today out here, the Vanida was prayed by priests from this country. I did not pray. I guess it was meaningless. The Vanida is prayed on the last day of the most important religious ceremony there will ever be. This lasts for 2 weeks, so the Tara is made pure and does not rot after that. It is prayed on the last day. I guess that is meaningless. And there are sound vibration energies in our religion. The Vanida is supposed to be prayed before the 4th day of the charm when a person passes away. And if it's not prayed before the 4th day, then at least in the first 1 year of a person passing away. In fact, one of the persons that you quote out here, who was completely against the Vanida and the teachings of the Vanida, had the Vanida done for one of his family members when they passed away. Now, if you are writing some saturated things about the Vanida, you don't believe in the Vanida. You say the Vanida is invented by the Mega. Then you go and write that anybody a Vanida for your family members? No. So I do want the people to know out here that the Gathas, by the way, there are 18 paragraphs in the Gatha, which is a subset of the 72 paragraphs of the Ijastate, the Yasna ceremony. So the Gathas are not freestanding. The Gathas are part of 72 paragraphs of the Ijastate ceremony. You also mentioned on slide number 3, which people may or may not have caught on, that in Yasna 31.3, all the Yasna says about conversion. And in your book, you actually write that Zoroastrian Sahib is asking our Muslim, give me the power so I can go and remove other religions, other people into the faith. Again, that is completely untrue. There are so many papers written by so many people that discredit, completely discredit that word relates to conversion of people from one religion to another. You try and preempt that the Vanida actually has direct conversations between Zarathustra and Zoroastrian, and you say that the Magi trick people. It is true. And you're trying to preempt that by saying that there are direct discussions taking place between Zarathustra and Zoroastrian. So all of that is not true. I'm not going to convince you. It's not for your benefit. This is for the benefit of the people in this room. That don't be misled. Because this is a convenient excuse for us to lead our lives.
Thank you, Berger. Thank you very much. This is a very thought-provoking session. Marianne knew that. We have to, and it seems like it might be a future new session that is in the make. So we can both hear both sides of it. We have every opportunity to hear.
Just respond to that.
Yes, sure.
Where you are coming from is something that was put together years, and as I said, what I gave you was not something that I cooked up. I gave you history. And if you do not like history, I can't do anything about that. These are historical. My turn. These are historical facts by numerous scholars, not one or two, not just the ZAH. Someone you were alluding to. ZAH was a great scholar. He was not an ordinary man. You may call him a reformist. He was not a reformist. Let me explain to you. Reformist, R-E-F-O-R-M-I-S-T, is one word, means someone who changes. Paula was a reformist, R-E-formist. He went back to the original form. That's what he was. And that's what he gives in his book, and the other scholars I mentioned, what they give in the book, they're well studied, well researched, they're not just their gut impressions. So what you're saying, and kind of being critical of what I said and trying to say that I'm misleading people, I'm not misleading anybody. What the Vandida was written in the Sasanian times. And the Vandida is not prayer. Vandida is a book, is a laws of direction, laws of purity. How does it become prayer? Killing people is prayer? Hitting people with 50 lashes, 100 lashes, 1,000 lashes prayer? Come on, go on.
If I may just, this can continue today, but at this moment, I think for our Zoom people and for keeping our timings, I would like for it to end. The conversation can continue. One second.
Few comments on Zoom, if maybe some can read out a couple.
Okay, we have some other comments, so let's quickly hear that.
Hi. There are actually comments from two people. One is Manik Ujwala, the other one is Kesri Shroff. And I'm first going to read Kesri Shroff's comments. Maria's presentation successfully challenges the recent claim by another scholar that Zoroastrianism is henotheistic faith, not monotheistic. Henotheistic is defined to mean devotion to a single primary God while accepting the existence of other deities. That's the difference that he's explained. Now, maybe Yasmin can read out.
Okay, so Manik Ujwala had a couple of comments. First, he said, thank you for the informative talks. It is high time to take back Dr. teachings as the primary teachings to follow, instead of blindly following the professional priests. The second comment was it's important to advocate reading of translations which are now available online free at websites like avesta.org.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And at this time, Maria, thanks very much for your presentation. This can continue, as I said, but at this time, I'm asking the library committee to come up here, please. And all the members of the library committee, please quickly come up here to the stage. I would like for Jenny to come to the stage. And I would also request Arzan and Adabat to come up to the stage too. Leslie, you need somebody to take a picture. So we never get our committee picture taken. We're always in a rush, we're always at the end. So this is the time that we're going to do that. So come on, please. Arnavas, where are you? Okay, Arnavas is always in the picture now. So I'm glad to see you. Come on up here. You know, we do these things because we are a subcommittee. We're a subcommittee of fires. We're a subcommittee of ZAH. And if ZAH doesn't support us, that is you, ZAH is you, whether you come into our presentations, for you opening up your hearts and giving us the money that we needed. And so fires are somewhere are run out here too. So I would like for Arzan to give Jenny a small token of our appreciation. Jenny, you took us on a journey through the evolving landscape of philanthropy in modern times, and your support and your presentation was very eye-opening. And we battled with what is going to be this breakout session going to be like, but as you know, and as we see, it was a new chapter that we opened up with TFIR. So thank you very much, Jenny. In a world that we face of different challenges that go on, sugar in the milk is a refreshing perspective, and we can issue these approaches with grace, compassion, and effectiveness. This is your fourth visit to Houston. Each time you engineer yourself even more. So, Arzan, if you would, please give Jenny a small token of our appreciation. Thank you. Adabat, where's Adabat out here? I would like to recognize our fellow member, Maria, who has done a phenomenal job of being a team member out here. And we may agree, we may not agree, even in our library committees, but at the end of the day, we're all one. So please remember that thought. And Adabat, we'd like to introduce Mary Adabat. We have to see you. And now I think we need a picture, right? So I get it. Okay. So is that going to be a big long picture? Should we do 2 rows or what? Come closer or do 2 rows or something? It's like sideways.
I think we have 2 rows.
We just do 2 rows is nice. So why don't we get our 2 young ladies out there too? Are they here? Hanta? Come on in.
Best behavior.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
One more. All right.
Thank you. So we can continue this conversation out here. We want to tell you the books that are out here are all available on Amazon.com, Jenny's books, and thank you very much for attending. We couldn't do it without you. We really appreciate it. Thank you.